The one where Dr. Ramoray dies is such a well-written episode of Friends. I mean, they all are, but this one I thought is particularly very, very well written. This is the 18th episode of the second season, directed by Michael Lembeck, and there are various narratives, and I guess there will be some spoilers from thoughts that I'm sharing. So I'm just going to say spoilers from now on. And the main narrative, where Dr. Ramoray dies, is actually very funny. It's not as emotional as it could be, because basically Joey has everything. He has this great job, he's got an apartment to himself, but he's about to lose it all. And I feel like that could have been a lot more emotional. I don't know, maybe it's because I've seen this episode so many times and I know what happens to Joey over the next 8 seasons, but certainly I feel like it could have been a bit more emotional, but they managed to get the balance of, feeling sorry for Joey with enough comedy. And he loses his job because he said something about how he writes his own lines, and it annoyed the writers. And that part of me has to wonder if this came about because of something one of the writers of the show experienced. I have no reason to think that, other than just clearly this idea came from somewhere. And yeah, taking credit for somebody else's work, whatever that work may be, not a good thing. Obviously, Joey didn't do it intentionally to hurt the writers, but the final scene that we see I just thought was beautifully done, and really the final scene of the show where Joey is killed off, it was really effective and really enjoyable and funny, and I think that was really essential for things to not be too depressing and for us to not feel Joey's emotions too strongly, because at the end of the day the show is designed to be a sitcom rather than a drama. Really enjoyed that part of the narrative, but it does mean what's going to happen with Joey's apartment. How's he going to make rent? Of course, if you've seen any episodes after, you know the answer, but it does mean that for this episode, things are a bit uncertain. Everybody except Phoebe has something going on in this episode. Phoebe provides some comedy in this, but she's definitely taking a back seat. Monica and Richard have declared their love to each other, which is very sweet, and I have to say I'm really liking Richard. I mean, I always liked Richard, but I feel like in this episode he was particularly likable. One could very easily see a big future for Monica and Richard. And based purely on this episode and the episodes before, one might make a reasonable assumption that they'll stay together forever. Obviously, we know what happens if you've seen the episodes after, but I really like them as a couple, and I think they work really, really well. We also get some brilliant scenes between Richard and Ross, and I have to say, David Schwimmer's delivery of some beautifully written lines was just flawless, particularly the conversation between him and Rachel about Paolo and animal sex, and just the way Schwimmer responded to everything, and the comedic timing was flawless, absolutely perfect. And then his discussion with Richard while Monica and Rachel were in the bathroom, I thought was just an absolute delight as well. Very well written, brilliant timing, just so gorgeous. And can't forget Chandler, of course. Chandler is realizing that Eddie may not be the best roommate or apartment mate because, well, he's a little bit unusual in the scary, in the very scary and slightly dangerous side. The whole goldfish thing, absolutely loved it. Eddie is certainly a very unpredictable character. And I don't think the show would have worked if he'd been a main character, but certainly for these episodes with Chandler, it's just brilliant. And how Chandler responds to everything, I just really enjoyed. This is definitely a brilliant episode, so well written, so funny, brilliant comedic timing from everybody. And definitely an episode that I feel is a turning point for Joey, but it also means that it helps to shape some other people's stories going forward as well. But I'll say no more. But I really enjoyed it. A really nice episode for Monica and Richard too. Very sweet. And ultimately, a very funny, really enjoyable episode.